Today on Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out, we're talking about accountability. Do you take ownership of your life, or is it life situations that are at fault? How do you react when stuff doesn't go your way? Are there goals you want to achieve, but you just haven't managed to do it and can't figure out how to be accountable? Learn to own your life as we continue our month focusing on beginnings and endings. Does your clutter own you? On Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out, we'll teach you how to become aware of your clutter, along with action steps to declutter and create the life you desire. Come on, let's get started. Today's episode was inspired because I see so many people that just don't hold themselves accountable. I'm over 50 and I see people my age that aren't accountable. And I think, you know what? Come on now. You're over 50. Really, you need to own your life at this point. And it really, quite honestly, makes me sad because if you can't be responsible for your life at this age, I don't know. How are you going to be in the next 20, 30 years of your life? You're just going to stay stuck most likely and not be able to move forward. I got really annoyed at someone and left Facebook, and someone I've known for a long time and my age. And it's like, you know what? You're too old to be blaming everyone and everything and not owning your life. If you want to create the life you desire, you need to be accountable. I also find it personally annoying when I see people behaving badly and then they cry boo-hoo when they have the consequences. They don't want to take any accountability. Now, they take accountability when they're on social media bragging and showing off and saying, oh, I'm going to confront this person or I'm going to do this. But then when they're like, yeah, it's time for jail, then they start crying. Own it. Own your life. If you are going to do something, then own it. A couple weeks ago, my husband had something, there was an issue at work and it went up the chain of command. They have tons of layers of bosses and I don't think he was 100% responsible for it, but he's just like, I own it. I'm going to own that it's my fault. And what's interesting was that all the bosses really appreciated it. And you might, on one hand, take the notion that, wow, you know, he is going to be in trouble if he did that. But I think what I feel they saw was like, here's someone who owned it. And if someone who's always like, oh, it's not my fault, it's not my fault, then people are probably going to not trust you, don't think you know what you're doing, and think, wow, they never own everything. It's always someone else's fault. So in that work situation, he definitely came out smelling better, saying, okay, I own this. And the good news about that was, then it was, you could say, okay, well, what needs to change if we have one person working on a project and we need more help? So I just sharing that thing. And in corporate America, because some of you I know listening are working in that, and I know won't be the same for every place. It depends on bosses and stuff, but owning it made a difference and being accountable. So why is it important to be accountable? And I know earlier we talked about actions and having consequences. So it's kind of tied into that a little bit, but more specifically about being accountable. One, it allows you to have a clear purpose in life. If you don't hold yourself accountable, you can just kind of wander through life. Now, I have a great t-shirt from Life is Good. Not all who wander are lost. And I agree 1,000% with that sentiment. I think there are certain people that can just float through life. I don't think that's the majority of us. And when we hold ourselves accountable, we know, okay, this is what I want to accomplish. This is what I want to do. One of the things I'd said forever that was kind of a dream that I kept the secret was to be an author. And that was a clear purpose for me in life. If I didn't hold myself accountable, then the books would have never gotten done. So that allows you to have a focus. Okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be. This is what I want to accomplish. It shows people, including yourself, Because, we can manage to hide from ourselves, but it shows that you said you do what you're going to do. You said, I'm going to do this, and I did it. As my father would say, imitating my nephew when he was younger, I did it all by myself. Right? You said, I am going to write a book, and you sat down and did it. You said, I am going to exercise 5 days a week, and you did it. And that shows you that, one, you can do it, and that you're true to your word. I mean, think about it when people say, oh, I'll do this, I'll do that. I'll never forget, someone kept saying to me, I want to get together with you. I want to get together with you. And then each time I was like, okay, what would you like to do? Then they didn't. So after about the third time, I figured it out. Sometimes I'm a little slow. And it's like, I'm done. You said that you wanted to get together and you're not doing that. And that's okay. It's not making a big stink, but I'm moving on. Being accountable allows you to demonstrate progress. You can say, okay, this is how I'm doing in this. And maybe it also allows you to say, hey, I need some support in this area. I have tried to move forward in this, and I've learned my skills aren't as good as I thought. Or, you know what? I've got some of the skill set here, but I need to learn more before I can move forward. And when you demonstrate your projects, that allows you to keep going. At least for me, it does, because it continues to motivate me. I say, okay, I can do this. I got this. I can keep going. Obviously, when you're accountable, it helps you achieve your goals. What is it you want to create? What is it you want to do? What is it that you want to be? What is it that you want to achieve? When you're accountable, it allows you to do that. Because remember, if you don't own it, well, likelihood of achieving goals probably aren't going to happen. Because if it's always someone else's fault, you can't control other people, situations, events, only yourself, and you're responsible for your goals. I think one of the things that's really important, it allows you to honor yourself, right? The only person you're always ever going to be with is you. So when you hold yourself accountable, you're really honoring yourself. It's really about you. It's not about anyone else. It's about you. How well do you honor yourself? Do you say, I'm worth it? I'm worth it to achieve this goal. I'm good enough. I'm worthy. I'm loved. I'm going to do this. How have you been honoring yourself, and how haven't you been honoring yourself? Being accountable allows you to move forward and not stay stuck. You say, okay, you know what? It's my life. I'm going to take action and do this. I'm not going to sit here and wallow and blame the world. Because when I blame the world, then I just sit here and nothing changes. Nothing changes. That's why I'm doing this. I want you to take action and move forward. When you own it, you can do that. Also allows you to develop and build a reputation. I talked about my husband, Tony, earlier. Tony is known as a solid guy. He's quiet, reliable was his nickname in the Army. He's dependable. What he showed his bosses is he was able to say, I own it. This is my mistake. I own it. And again, I think that he definitely comes off way better than anyone, because there are definitely colleagues of his who don't want to own anything. But he has developed and continues to build a good, solid reputation at work. I mentioned a moment ago someone who didn't want to get together with me. Whether or not we realize it or like it, I would be hesitant to do anything with them professionally. You weren't true to your word. If you said to me, I just don't have time, I think you're a bonehead, I would have much preferred that than to keep saying, oh, let's get together, not do it. That's someone that I don't trust. And finally, it helps you reduce blame, conflict, frustration. I mean, isn't your life better when you're not always blaming someone else, or you're in conflict, or you're frustrated? That brings you peace of mind. The older I get, really, you cannot place a price tag on peace of mind. You really can't, in my opinion. So what are barriers to accountability, right? Because if we're not doing it, there must be a reason. Easier said than done to say, oh, be accountable. You don't feel any pressure. You're like, I don't have to do this. and you don't have a deadline. One of the things I always talk about when working with people, what's the date it's going to be done by? If you don't do that, then it's that someday, right? And someday never comes. Well, I want to write a book someday, right? Well, you can say that for 50 years. You don't feel that built-in deadline. And so again, no pressure. Well, when I get to it, I'll get to it. So that's a huge thing. I am a firm believer of having a date done by. And again, that's something you can move. If you plan to declutter your office and you say, I'm going to give myself 2 weeks, and you have a busy week at work or something comes up and you're only able to do an hour or two, extend and say, okay, I'm going to take a month. And what I always like to do, add in a couple weeks. And then there's that built-in cushion. So when life happens or you don't feel motivated on a particular day, you can still get it done in a reasonable time. Now, again, if you keep moving that back and back and back, then that's another way that you're creating a barrier for yourself. Then you need to ask yourself, is that something that you really want to do? Because if you keep putting it off, it might be less about being accountable and being something that you really aren't interested in doing. And so that comes back to honoring yourself. Are you honoring yourself? Are you feeling pressure to do this because someone in your family wants you to do it? So that's why it's about increasing our awareness and always digging deeper to figure out what's going on. Another barrier might be that you aren't clear how to achieve what you need to. Maybe you start out down this path and that doesn't work. And you're like, well, I'll try something else. And you don't have a clear path. There's nothing wrong with that. And again, it might be a skill set that you need to learn. You might need a mentor. You might need to do some more research. You might need to fine tune your plan if it's not working. And talk to people. Hey, how did you achieve this? True story. When I was writing my book, it's very interesting how the brain works because I'm organized. I'm very into structure, even though I have a very strong intuitive side, and they work really well together. But as organized as I am, I couldn't come up with the structure of a chapter. I knew the structure for the book kind of loosey-goosey. And so I literally Googled, what did I Google? Something like chapter structure for self-improvement book, something along those lines. I looked at a bunch of things and I'm like, this is perfect. Chapter number, quote, and then give an example. I'm a huge firm believer in giving real life examples because someone, I can relate to that. Yeah, that happened to me. So anyway, so that's how I got it. And that's how I did it because I didn't know how to achieve writing a good structured chapter that would get my point across. So I took action and figured out how to do it. You might be unsure what you want to do. I mentioned that a moment ago, or where to start. Again, that's when you find support to help you. You say to someone, hey, how did you do that? Or as we've talked in the last episode, what do you want to start? What do you want to begin? And I gave some pointers how to do that. But of course, you can understand if you're like, I don't know what to do, how you're going to be accountable. Another reason is we might want to be avoiding something. Oh, I might get in trouble with my boss. Oh, I might make my family upset if I do that. Oh, might get into an argument with my spouse or loved one. What is it you're trying to avoid? And, I've mentioned before, I'm sure multiple times, until I did a lot of interviewing with Reawaken Your Brilliance and my own personal growth, whatever I was afraid of took up more energy and time and effort than actually walking through the fire. So if I was trying to avoid something, it was usually easier to just go for it and do it instead of the energy to hold it back. And the reality is probably 99% of our really deep fears don't come to pass. It's that false evidence appearing real. So if you're avoiding something, I'm going to encourage you to use it as an opportunity to dig a little deeper. Do you keep saying that you'll have the life you desire someday, but someday never comes? Have you been feeling like your clutter owns you? Looking for a little more support that's budget friendly? We'll be doing weekly take actions and creating a community to move you forward so you can discover joy and freedom. Visit Declutter Your Life with Julie Coraccio on Patreon to learn more, or find the link on reawakenyourbrilliance.com. The how-to. How do we be accountable? First, I'm going to suggest have a good attitude. Gratitude is attitude. Attitude is everything. Talked about consequences. If you don't hold yourself accountable personally and professionally. So be aware of that. You may say, okay, there are consequences to my actions, so I might as well be accountable. I might as well go for it. Understand that long-lasting change takes time and effort. Most of us don't have that one night of darkness like Eckhart Tolle. So it takes time. I'm always evolving, always a work in progress. I know it takes time. That book, think about the books today, 4 years for the one book, 4 years to do it. Wrote a really long draft. And I was like, ugh. And then a year later picked it up and said, this isn't working. I need to Google a chapter structure. So it usually takes time. Learning lessons. I'm not a fan of the word mistakes. Learning lessons are part of it. Understand that. Believe in yourself. Believe it's worth it to invest in yourself. Just take responsibility. No excuses. You know what? My attitude is going to be no excuses. So if you start off with some kind of parameters, beliefs that are going to support you in having a good attitude, that's going to go a long way. Think about when you're cranky and think about when you're feeling good. It definitely affects everything. So have as good an attitude as possible. That's where we want to start. Keep track. Write stuff down. Not all in your head. I always tell all my clients, write it down. You'd be surprised at how many people don't. I went back to, I'm a huge fan. I got this from my father of legal pads and used those forever. This year, 2020, because we moved, I said, in 2021, forgot my year there. In 2020, then I'm like, I'm moving. I'm going to get a planner so I can have everything. It has a pocket and everything for moving. I'm going to keep everything together. And I just ordered my planner for 2022. And I'm excited to get that started. Going with emerald green this year, green growth. I thought that would be a really good color. I have my turquoise that I love. And despite what my husband says, I'm painting my office turquoise. It allows me to keep track, write stuff down. I have a list at the beginning of the month. It allows me to create goals. I've done an entire podcast on SMART goals. If you create the goals and do those steps, it's going to make it easier for you to achieve them and be accountable. And understand why it's important to you. I mentioned that a moment ago. If you're not being accountable, then maybe that's a signal it's not important to you. So focus on your priorities. Really take the time. It's one of those stitch in 9 saves time, or whatever the saying is. When you understand what really matters, it really makes it easier for you, because you can easily say, that's not part of my goal, let it go. And I can focus my time and energy and accountability on what's important to me. Make a promise to yourself. For me, I promise to take better care of you. I promise to take better care of you, body. I haven't been doing a great job for the past 14 months. So I'm going to promise you, I'm going to do better. Well, you don't want to let yourself down, do you? That kind of puts a new twist on it. You come to say like, yeah, my boss, I'm not invested in my job, but I hope you're invested in yourself. Hey, I promise you, self, I'm going to do this for you, for us. Understand your motivation. If you don't have a strong motivation, it's not likely to get done. So if you're aware of that and understand, okay, This is my motivation and this is why it is. And really tap into that. I'm a huge fan of doing vision boards or a huge fan of doing lists. When we were leaving the house, I had to check in with my dear beloved Judy, and she had phrased something so well. She had the image of moving up stakes and saying, you know what, we don't want to be here. I don't want to be in a neighborhood where people aren't accountable for their actions. They want to hold other people accountable and they want to change, and they don't like it when they're asked to be accountable. So that was a good visual reminder, having that phrase for me. Understand my motivation when I don't want to pack, when I'm exhausted, when I don't want to declutter anymore. My motivation is to get into a better neighborhood. So be aware of your motivation. And if you're lacking motivation, I'll bring it back to priorities. Create a schedule and be aware of your habits. One of the things I have done is to make walking a priority. My goal is the smartwatch has been great at holding me accountable. But when I look at my schedule, like today, I'm going walking with a friend. I'll probably get in 10,000 miles. I know we're walking today, but exercise, I'm always looking, where can I do my exercise pocket? And being aware of my habits and trying to build in every day, okay, walking. My niece, I love Emma. She's 12, but she's 12 going on 40. And she said, you're like my father. Why do you always park the farthest away in the parking lot? And I said, because girl, I got to get my steps. That's why we're doing it. So then I build those habits. Manage your time. And a big thing, don't overcommit. When I first started my business, I felt like I had to go to every networking event. And I'm one of those people that things like that exhaust me. I'll never forget, I went to 3 networking events in a day and I thought I felt like I was run over by a Mack truck. One of the things I learned early on is not to overcommit. I always, just about always, leave room in my schedule for a surprise, something awesome to happen, just to being open to that. So I never overcommit. So have that time so that you don't feel overwhelmed. If your schedule's jam-packed, you might lose motivation. You might not be able to get done what needs to be done. And you can understand why you're like, oh, well, then that's an easy excuse. Oh, my schedule's jam-packed. That's why I'm not accountable. Check in and examine your progress. One of the things I like about this new planner I got, I did the Franklin Covey system for years, and then I'm trying out this Clever Fox, is one I have like each week has a life balance to-do list, which I really appreciate. But at the beginning, we have what we're going to set. We do a 3-month check-in so I can examine, how am I doing on this? And I think that that's really important. You reassess, again, checking our motivation. Is this still my priority? Life happens. We're fluid and in flow and change. And what was a priority today might not be one tomorrow. But by regularly checking in and examining your progress, and again, that's holding you accountable. You can say, whoa, I said that I'd have 5 chapters done in 6 months, and I'm only on chapter 2. Whoa, I got to rearrange my schedule here and have more time to write. Create a plan. What are your distractions going to be, and how will you overcome? So let's talk about exercising and walking. My distraction is always work to do, right? Oh, I got to write a book. I got to write more. I got to do the podcast. So easy for me to say, oh, I've got work to do. And that can serve as the distraction. So understand how you can overcome your obstacles and challenges. For me, getting a smartwatch, really, he'll ding me here soon and say, would you like to go for a walk? Would you like to get up and stretch? And so that's one of the ways that I did it. I write it down, because I write it down, I'm more likely to do it. I am watching my nieces and nephew for another few days, and I'm exhausted. They are good kids and teens, but no one drives. So my father and I are tag teaming, and it's almost over. It has been a long 10 days, and they are awesome, but I haven't been able to do much because I'm going to go feed the dogs after this, and just a lot going on. I got a walking buddy. I have 2 women that like to walk. And so at least once a week, I'm going to be able to walk with someone. And one of the women is in the gym that we're going to join. So she said she likes to do classes. So that's going to be another thing. Like I was like, you know what, if I have to tell someone, even though I'm not a morning person, I'm going to do a class, I will get up and do that. Be aware of your words. I can't. My brother would never let the kids say I can't when they were younger, which I think was a really good thing as a parent to do. And your perspectives, be aware of all that and use that to create your plan to hold yourself accountable. If you know that the Cheesecake Factory, because you love cheesecake, tempts you, then only go there once a month or on your birthday or whatever it is. Know how you'll be able to handle those challenges. And everyone's going to have challenges. It's not just you. Don't get in the woe is me. Know that we're all going to have those battles that we need to face. Get support. And support doesn't necessarily meaning hiring someone, although it can. Hang out with like-minded people. I am walking with women who want to get in better shape, who are making themselves a priority. That's people that I want to hang out with. Follow experts. Learn from them. Communicate. Share your concerns and your fears. When we hold things in, that's not a good thing. And I will literally go out and talk to a tree if I don't feel like there's anyone I can talk to, say, oh, I'm worried about this. This is my concern and my fears. And you know what? When I release it and I kind of barf it up, I always feel better. Have a buddy. I've mentioned that I have some women that I'm walking with. Find different ways that can support you. Listening to this podcast is a way to support yourself. It's someone saying, yep, you can do it. Here are some ways to do it. I believe in you. And if I haven't said that in a while, I do believe in you. And even if I haven't met you, you're listening the first time, you've been a long time listener, we're connected. You're here for a reason. I feel the energy of everyone tuning in. Own your feelings. It's okay to get frustrated. It's okay to get angry. Let it out and then move forward. Own it. There's nothing wrong with that. I have talked a lot about how emotional clutter, not releasing our emotions, can keep us stuck. When we label something as right and wrong, good and bad, when really it's just energy. So it's just energy and motion wanting to be released. And then manage your expectations. Did a podcast, Great Expectations. A lot of our frustration comes from having these huge expectations and then they're not met, and then we get bummed out. I didn't have an expectation to be a New York best time seller. I don't have that expectation at all. It's not even in my thinking. Because if I thought, oh, I'm going to do that, or I'm going to be like that woman in the gray things and this explosion, have a movie and blah, 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 not happening. But then of course I'd be depressed or disappointed and say, oh, but I haven't reached a bazillion people. Yeah, but I've reached people who it's mattered to, who've helped change their life. That's important. Just be aware of your expectations, because you can understand if you have these grand ones and then they don't happen and then you lose your desire to be accountable. Deadlines, mention that. Someday will never come. Create a deadline. Give yourself some cushion, but just be aware if you keep pushing that deadline back and back and back. And finally, the part of being accountable, learn from your mistakes. Learn your lessons. They aren't mistakes. Just go in with the, okay, you know what? I'm going to stumble, but I'm going to get back right up. And what can I learn from this? What do I know? What can support me in moving forward? And when you do that, I believe that again supports you. It's being your best friend, not your own worst enemy. And it makes being accountable easier because you don't get that, oh no, and that fear. And that's one of the things that drove me crazy about corporate America and so many people that just were such horrible bosses. And they didn't allow for a culture to make mistakes. And so this fear, so then no one wants to take accountability if they're afraid they're going to lose their job or their boss is going to yell at them. And that was something that I would hope would change. Maybe that's a pipe dream, but it'd be really nice to see if people, and I think in some small businesses, there's definitely that culture. But just know you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. I'm believing in you. Be accountable. I know you got this. Take actions from today's podcast. Understand why it's important for you to be accountable and what you'll gain. Be aware of your barriers to owning your life. Create a plan to be responsible. Reflect on how accountability has helped you achieve your goals. Move forward each and every day. On our next episode, we're talking about no matter what. Go out, clear your clutter to create the life you choose, deserve, and desire. Clearing your clutter allows you to share your gifts with the world. Get your free self-assessment to discover your clutter priority at reawakenyourbrilliance.com. If you've enjoyed Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out, please rate, review, and share us.